It's June 6, 1944. The cold Atlantic wind bites at the faces of American soldiers as they hit the sands of Normandy. Some freeze in the surf. Others sprint across the beach under a sky that seems impossibly vast and indifferent. And in that moment, every man feels the weight of a nation on his shoulders. They don't know it yet, but their actions today will echo across decades, shaping not just the outcome of the Second World War, but the very blueprint of American military power for generations to come. Have you ever wondered how a handful of soldiers storming a beach could set the stage for everything from nuclear strategy to the wars of tomorrow in space? American military power didn't appear fully formed. It was forged in the fire of necessity, molded by innovation, driven by courage. In the early 1940s, the U.S. Army is still adjusting from the lingering shadows of World War I. The regular army is small, lightly armed, and spread thin. But there's an unmistakable determination. Officers like Dwight D. Eisenhower, George S. Patton, and Omar Bradley push the boundaries of strategy, blending classical tactics with modern mechanized warfare. Every soldier trains, learns, adapts, and writes history with each advance into Europe and the Pacific. Consider the story of Private First Class Desmond Doss, a medic in the 77th Infantry Division, who repeatedly braves enemy fire on Okinawa, refusing to carry a weapon, and saves over 70 men. Doss's courage is more than personal heroism, it embodies a principle that will define American military culture: ingenuity combined with moral resolve. These values carry into post-war doctrine, influencing how the U.S. approaches military innovation and conflict. Meanwhile, in the air, American air power grows exponentially. The United States Army Air Forces, under leaders like General Henry H. Hap Arnold, develop strategic bombing campaigns that target industrial centers, crippling Axis production while minimizing infantry losses. The B-17 Flying Fortress and the B-29 Superfortress are more than planes, they're symbols of technological ambition. And when crews like those on the Enola Gay carry out missions over Japan, they demonstrate the sheer reach and lethality of American ingenuity, setting the precedent for the strategic nuclear capabilities of the Cold War. Naval power expands too. The Pacific Theater challenges American forces to innovate on the fly. The aircraft carrier becomes the centerpiece of naval strategy, a lesson learned in battles like Midway, where Admiral Chester W. Nimitz orchestrates a stunning victory against the Japanese fleet. Small, decisive moves by codebreakers, pilots, and sailors combine into an unstoppable momentum. Every victory, every tactical adjustment, feeds into an institutional memory that will drive future military development. Letters from the front reveal the human side of this evolution. A private in the 101st Airborne writes home from Normandy, "We hold a piece of France in our hands today. I see the fear, the courage, and I know we're part of something bigger than any of us. I don't know if I'll see home again, but I trust we're changing the world." These voices remind us that power isn't just measured in tanks or bombs, it's forged in sacrifice, in the everyday acts of bravery that ripple outward across time. After 1945, the world shifts. The United States emerges not only victorious but dominant, confronting the reality of nuclear weapons and global responsibility. The lessons of World War II, rapid mobilization, combined arms coordination, innovation under pressure, inform the creation of new branches and doctrines. The Air Force becomes independent in 1947, reflecting a recognition that air power, once a support arm, is now a decisive factor in national security. By the Korean War, American military power is more agile and responsive. Troops rely on helicopters, jet aircraft, and integrated supply lines. Commanders like General Matthew Ridgway apply lessons from World War II to rapidly stabilize front lines and maintain momentum against North Korean advances. This is the first glimpse of a military that can project power globally, not just defend territory. Each technological advancement, from jet propulsion to early electronic communications, sets the stage for a post-industrial battlefield where speed, precision, and coordination are as critical as manpower. The Cold War further accelerates this evolution. Nuclear deterrence becomes central, but so does conventional readiness. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction drives strategy in ways unimaginable during the beaches of Normandy. Meanwhile, American military research pours into radar, missile guidance, and space exploration. In 1957, the Soviet launch of Sputnik shocks the nation, catalyzing the space race, but also highlighting a military imperative: superiority in one domain demands preparation in all others. Vietnam tests American resolve and adaptability in different ways. Jungle warfare, counterinsurgency tactics, and helicopter mobility redefine how the military engages unconventional threats. Units like the 1st Cavalry Division, Airmobile, demonstrate a capacity for rapid response that traces its lineage back to the combined arms operations of World War II. Soldiers learn to navigate ambiguous battlefields where traditional measures of power, tank columns, artillery barrages, are less decisive. Every setback, every tactical innovation, feeds a growing understanding of modern warfare's complexity. Amid this, technological innovation never stops. The development of precision-guided munitions, advanced communication networks, and satellite surveillance systems transforms the American military into a force capable of real-time intelligence, rapid deployment, and global reach. Engineers and scientists working alongside military planners take lessons from World War II logistics, Korean War mobility, and Vietnam adaptability to build tools that redefine the battlefield. Stories of individual courage continue to inspire and teach. Navy SEALs, Air Force pilots, and Army Rangers carry forward a tradition of small units making decisive impacts. They operate under extreme conditions, often relying on superior training, intelligence, and technology rather than sheer numbers. The echoes of WWII's airborne infantry and amphibious landings resonate here. Strategy is powerful, but so is the human spirit. By the 1980s and 1990s, the U.S. military demonstrates a new level of operational sophistication. In Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm, American forces combine overwhelming technological superiority with meticulous planning. Precision airstrikes cripple infrastructure, while mechanized infantry and armored divisions advance with near-surgical efficiency. Generals like Norman Schwarzkopf applied decades of accumulated military knowledge, proving that the lessons of World War II still resonate in the desert sands of the Middle East. Meanwhile, the rise of information warfare and cyber capabilities signals another evolution. Satellites, reconnaissance, and real-time data sharing transform decision-making processes. Commanders can track enemy movements, predict logistical needs, and coordinate multi-branch operations with a level of precision unimaginable during the Normandy landings. The emphasis shifts from sheer firepower to integrated strategy, an evolution that begins with World War II lessons but extends into new, digital realms. And as the 21st century progresses, American military power begins to extend beyond Earth. Space becomes a critical domain, with satellites supporting communication, navigation, and surveillance. Early plans for space-based defense draw directly from the innovations and doctrines developed in World War II and refined during the Cold War. Leaders recognize that controlling the high ground, the ultimate high ground, is not just a metaphor, it's a strategic imperative. Yet, despite all these advancements, the human element remains at the core. Just as in Normandy, bravery, initiative, and sacrifice continue to define outcomes. A letter from a modern soldier deployed overseas reads, "We've got more tech than anyone could have imagined in 1944, but it still comes down to courage, to watching your buddies back, to doing what's right when no one else is looking." History repeats itself in principle if not in form. The evolution of American military power is a story of machines and codes, but also of men and women willing to stand in the storm. The journey from D-Day to space defense is not linear. Each conflict, each technological leap, each human story layers onto the next. Amphibious assaults teach joint operations. Air campaigns teach strategic patience. Nuclear strategy teaches restraint and calculation. Counterinsurgency teaches flexibility and humility. And as America projects power into the heavens, the DNA of World War II, the courage, ingenuity, and adaptability, remains unmistakable. But consider this, every era of American military evolution also exposes vulnerabilities. Even with global reach, precision weapons, and space-based intelligence, the battlefield is never entirely predictable. And as we look to the future, questions emerge that the veterans of Normandy could hardly imagine. How will American forces operate when the next major theater isn't just across the ocean, but in orbit? What happens when the line between technology and combat becomes nearly invisible? And here's the cliffhanger, the turning point where history, technology, and ambition collide. American military power has reached beyond Earth, but one mission looms that will challenge everything ever learned from the beaches of Normandy, the deserts of the Middle East, and the jungles of Vietnam. A mission so audacious, so unprecedented, that the outcome could redefine warfare itself, and the men and women who carry it out will either become legends or vanish into history's shadows. By the early 2000s, American military power is a complex tapestry woven from decades of experience, innovation, and lessons hard-earned in conflict. The U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps operate as an integrated force, capable of projecting power to the most remote corners of the globe. Precision-guided munitions, unmanned aerial vehicles, and satellite reconnaissance define operations. But beneath every satellite image and drone strike is a soldier, a pilot, a sailor, a marine, human eyes and judgment ensuring that decades of doctrine are applied in the real world. The invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq test this evolution under the lens of asymmetric warfare. Unlike the massive mechanized engagements of World War II or Desert Storm, American forces face insurgents who blend into civilian populations, striking unpredictably. Units like the 75th Ranger Regiment and Special Forces rely on intelligence, mobility, and adaptability more than sheer firepower. And still, the principles remain: coordination across branches, rapid response, technological superiority, and above all, trust in the soldier's skill and courage. Consider Captain Florent Groberg, a soldier in Afghanistan who runs toward a suicide bomber, tackling him and saving dozens of lives. Acts like his remind us that despite all advancements, American military power remains defined by individual heroism and sacrifice, echoing the courage of medics like Desmond Doss or the paratroopers storming Normandy. Every innovation in technology is only as effective as the people behind it, and American military culture continues to honor that truth. As the 2010s progress, cyber warfare and space operations gain unprecedented importance. The U.S. establishes the U.S. Cyber Command and, later, the U.S. Space Force. Satellites, GPS, and secure communications now underpin global military operations. The lessons of World War II, adaptability, integration of new technologies, strategic patience, are applied in entirely new domains. The high ground of Normandy is replaced by orbital platforms, the artillery of Europe replaced by precision-guided networks and electronic warfare. Yet the mission is consistent: protect the nation, deter aggression, and maintain the ability to respond decisively. And in space, the evolution continues. The first astronauts in military programs recall the same drive that pushed American forces across Europe and the Pacific. The United States leveraged decades of strategic thinking, the coordination of branches, rapid deployment, intelligence superiority, and the ability to project power anywhere, anytime. Space operations aren't just about exploration, they're a continuation of the doctrine developed during World War II, scaled for a domain humans once only dreamed of. But history reminds us that every leap in power introduces risk. Satellites can be disabled, networks infiltrated, and even the most sophisticated systems remain dependent on human judgment. The question becomes, how will American military power evolve when conflict moves further into realms where conventional tactics offer little guidance? When the enemy operates in cyberspace or outer orbit, what lessons from the beaches of Normandy or the jungles of Vietnam can still apply? And this is where the story reaches its edge. The evolution of American military power isn't finished. From the mud of European battlefields to the deserts of the Middle East, from the skies over Korea to satellites orbiting Earth, every chapter builds on the last. Soldiers, engineers, pilots, and leaders learn from the past to prepare for a future that is unpredictable and unlike anything ever faced. Every operation, every technological innovation, every act of courage adds to a collective knowledge that defines not just American military capability but the very idea of global power projection. Letters home, once full of hope and fear from the beaches of Normandy, now describe operations from thousands of miles away, from cockpits, from command centers, from remote bases and orbital platforms. They reflect a continuity of spirit. One private writes, "I see the same courage in my unit that I read about in World War II letters. The machines change, the enemy changes, but the heart of the soldier remains." And that heart, combined with innovation, ensures that the United States can respond to threats anywhere, at any scale, across any domain. Yet, even with all this, the frontier of military power expands faster than doctrine can keep up. The next war may not be fought on beaches, in cities, or even on the ground. It may unfold in orbital platforms, cybergrids, or networks that control critical infrastructure. The challenge isn't just force, it's adaptation, strategy, and foresight. How does a military maintain the human edge in a domain dominated by artificial intelligence and autonomous systems? How do soldiers retain the initiative when speed exceeds human reaction time? And now, the pivotal moment arrives. Deep within classified planning centers, across orbital command posts, and in the minds of military innovators, preparations begin for a mission that will push American military power to its absolute limit. A mission that blends lessons from World War II amphibious assaults, Cold War nuclear strategy, rapid global deployment, and modern cyber and space technology. The stakes are higher than any battle in history, the risks greater than any force ever faced. And the consequences, well, they could reshape the future of conflict entirely. As night falls over Earth, satellites glide silently across the atmosphere, transmitting data faster than any soldier can react, yet relying on the human decisions at every step. Fleet commanders review simulations of maneuvers that dwarf the scale of Normandy or Okinawa, while engineers check systems that can strike or defend from beyond the planet itself. And somewhere, a young officer opens a sealed folder and reads a plan so ambitious, so dangerous, that it will either cement American military dominance for a generation, or expose vulnerabilities no one could have predicted. The story of American military power has always been a story of evolution. From the beaches of Normandy, to the jungles of Vietnam, to deserts, cities, and the cyber domain. And now, the next chapter begins above our heads. But one question remains, chilling and unavoidable. When the first spacecraft deploys forces into orbit, when satellites become weapons, and when the rules of warfare are rewritten among the stars, will the lessons of the past be enough to secure victory? Or will history demand yet another reckoning for those willing to stand on the frontier of war? And that is where we leave it, on the brink of a mission that could redefine conflict forever, a mission that draws on every innovation, every act of bravery, every lesson learned since the men of the 29th Infantry Division first charged Omaha Beach. The countdown has begun. The world watches. And American military power, evolved for a new era, faces its ultimate test.